keep doing it for the thrill. Well, this is reality, you only live it once, so wake up from your dream. But just for tonight, let the lines get blurred, let your thoughts be free, let your thoughts be free.
Good evening there, and everybody, and welcome to the latest Elite FPL stream with myself, Stevo. A bit of a different environment. I'm downstairs today, so I can actually talk at the irony. When I'm not streaming with Jason, I can now talk at a normal level, so my voice would probably be louder when I'm with Jason, and then the one day that he's not actually able to stream, I'm down here and I can talk at a normal level. But anyway, whatever, he's not here. I will be joined by Dan well, any minute now, to be honest with you. Yeah, welcome everybody here. It just feels like when you do the amount of videos that I do, the amount of content I do, it just, everything seems to blur into one. This week, in the words of Jason, has absolutely flown by. Where does it go, Steve-O? That's a pretty poor impression of Jason. I can't really do, there's very few people I can't do impressions of. He's one of them. There's a guy at work, ironically called Jason. I can't do an impression of him either, other than the laughter that he does, but even then it's not that particularly great of an impression, really. Steve-O, mate? Nah, it's just terrible. I need to work on it. I can see Nick's here, or is it James? One of James from not Planet FPL, from FPL Juice, their producer. It would be something like this. He always does this. He just goes, guys, remember what? We've got to promote the show. And then Nick's just there on his phone. Ash. Fucking hell. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Streaming. I was even thinking this 30 seconds ago. This is how much of a loser I am. Oh! If you want to find, in fact, if you want to find out how much of a fucking loser I actually am, speaking to the mic, Steve-O, as James would say. Are you wearing a mic? You can follow my journey on Bumble, the con job. Although, Nick, you'll be interested in this. I actually got a match today. I was going to do an impromptu bonus Steve-O podcast today about a match that I had, and the most ridiculous conversation, if you can call it that. But stay tuned for that, Nick. I bet you can't wait for that. I can't, Steve-O. It's going to be great. Yeah, so I was just thinking this 30 seconds ago, live streaming, how bloody different it is to doing videos. So, like, for instance, when I released the members video earlier on, which let us know in the chat or comment below, yeah? If you enjoy the fact that I'm going to be releasing members videos like a day later to the public, so let us know that. What else is there to talk about before Dan comes on? He said he was going to be here at 8 o'clock. He still isn't here. Where are you, Dan? Yeah, there's lots of injuries at the moment. I have put a poll up for you guys to interact with. Yeah? It basically simply says, how many injuries have you got? Actually, it actually says how many flags have you got? And then John Harris wrote, I've got a quick question for you, Steve-O. Oh yeah, what's that? What colour? Jesus Christ. Talking of John Harris, actually, well, he basically asked what colour is in 75% of the world's flags. I'm just going to assume it's white. Talking to John Harris, a very loyal fan of the show. Fans. Tomorrow evening, when we're doing the live reaction to, or the reaction stream to Saturday's matches, do you know what it is? It's our 5th birthday. I was supposed to tweet this out actually today. It's our 5th birthday tomorrow of live streaming. It's exactly on the 11th of November when we first did a live stream. And basically, myself, Dan and Jason, I'm hoping Dan can be on camera. I think he will be. He is going to be joining me and Jason, obviously, to talk about the football, obviously the derby between myself and him regarding Arsenal versus Burnley when they win 5-0. But we just want to have a bit of a laugh, a bit of a joke, memories, favourite memories of the show, whether you're a brand new member, whether you're not, whether you've been with the show for 5 years or whatnot, just come along. We just want to discuss memories of the show. A bit self-indulgent, I know. But we just want to have a bit of a laugh, to be honest. Having a laugh at home while streaming. Talking of The Office, you can follow my Look Back Office podcast if you want. Hearing anecdotes about me, there's certain things I can't actually talk about on here, but certainly relating The Office to my real life. If anybody does listen to this, you'll probably recognise this reference. A scantily clad female worker bending over, getting annoyed at the fact that a customer was going, cool, look at that. Jesus, God almighty. So tomorrow evening, make sure you join myself, Dan and Jason for the 8 PM stream, reacting to all the games. And like I said, just having a bit of fun, reading your comments about favourite moments and whatnot. We'll be finding out what transfers I did, Jason did, Dan did in the end. Lots of problems with our teams. I mean, as you can see up on my screen at the moment, I've got Nketiah and Maddison. I did have Udogie, but I've already done the transfer. I brought in Lascelles, and I need to speak to Dan tonight about Saka. So the safety move that I want to do, as you probably watched on the video earlier, the safety move I'm going to do is Saka in for Maddison. That's the safety option, because moving forward he's a better option than the one that I kind of want to go for, which is with my heart, is Martinelli. Martinelli tomorrow could potentially do some serious damage to Burnley, but as a when I say long-term option, I mean in the sense of for the next 4 or 5 game weeks, where Arsenal have got, if I can just bring it up on my screen quickly, they have, fixture-wise, it is obviously Burnley tomorrow, then it's Brentford away, which is not a great fixture, but then Wolves, Luton, Aston Villa and Brighton. So Saka is clearly the option that I want to take with that, but I kind of want to speak to Dan about the options. I'm a bit fucked off at the fact that Martinelli is injured. To be honest, not Martinelli, Nketiah is potentially out at the moment. Before we bring Dan on, I'm just going to quickly say hello to a few people that are here watching us live. Like I already mentioned, John Harris, animation. Shall I do an impression of animations? What does he normally say when he comes on? Hello guys. Hello guys. Nice to be on as ever. Again, it needs a bit of work, but Lee Turner, don't recognise the name. Make sure if you are brand new around here to make sure you hit the subscribe button. In fact, do you know what would be really nice tonight? Tonight would be really nice if we hit 7,500. We're only 16 people away. I think it's less than that. 15 people away from hitting the 500 mark. So we could get to 7,500 subscribers tonight. So please, if you are brand new around here, make sure you're hitting the subscribe button, especially if you enjoy the stuff. I don't know why you're not subscribed otherwise. So yeah, if you are new around here, make sure you're doing that. Make sure you're hitting the like button as well. Odin, good afternoon. Kickus. John Harris, Craig Boy Crook. Again, don't recognise the name. Welcome. Again, it's either Nick or James. Same person. Welcome along, whichever one it is. I'm assuming it's Nick. Martin Keenan. Is that Martin Keown? Spelt incorrectly. Ray Koreshi's here. Stevie Boy. That was Sahil. Even though he was doing an impression of me, doing an impression of someone else, of a customer that used to walk in and just go, Stevie Boy! Hello, lad! Don Dewsbury's here, Ben Feller, B. Yakov. Good God, I haven't seen that name for a long time. Connor, good afternoon, pal. Ton Steiner, haven't seen that name for a while in there. Alex oh yeah. Thank you for reminding me, Alex Voller. Before I get Dan on, in fact, shall I just quickly say hello to Dan? And I want to do this. Oh yeah. Remember for the FPL Juice show, tell them about the five-a-side, yeah? Yeah, I'm going to try and get to that if it's on a day which I'm available to go to. I'm pretty sure I am available to that. But yeah, before we get, in fact, I'm going to get Dan on, and then what we're going to do is I'm going to let him speak, and essentially I can then find the tweet that I want to read out from Alex Volo because it's absolutely genius. Dan, are you there?
Yes, good evening, guys.
Could you speak again quickly? Sorry, I was on the wrong screen there.
Good evening.
There we are, perfect. Dan,
No.
do you want to just speak some absolute nonsense while I try and find a tweet from Alex Volo, please?
Well, yes, good evening, everyone. Hope you all had a marvellous week and looking forward to another enthralling weekend of FPL action. Just currently perusing some of the upcoming fixtures for this particular game week 12, and it does look like it's going to be a very interesting one for many FPL managers out there. And currently just wrestling with a headache, defensively speaking, looking at my defenders at the moment, looking at a transfer for Romero out, get rid of that useless Tottenham rubbish, and get a proper defender in, get Gabriel in at 4.8 million. And then looking at the rest of my defence as well, we've got Dan Burn, who's obviously injured, Timsakas, however it is you say his name. Is he going to start? So, yeah, it's a pretty interesting game week before we go into the international games. We've got Newcastle Man United Saturday night, 8 o'clock. That should be definitely an interesting match. Of course, the big game on Sunday, the reigning champions Man City at home to Spurs. That will certainly be...
Dan, I think you're reading the wrong game week here, mate.
Yeah, that's fine. I was talking about after the international break, not before.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
You believe that? You believe anything? Sorry. But anyway, yeah, Chelsea Man City is the game that I meant to refer to at 4:30. That should be really interesting after Chelsea's demolition of Tottenham on Monday, which was absolutely fantastic for all involved, really. But yeah, just looking forward to this stream, hearing what people got to say, and just glad that I'm actually looking at the right game week fixtures now. We're
going to be doing a stream tomorrow evening. Before we get into that tomorrow, can you just give us your thoughts on the fact that tomorrow evening will be our 5th year of live streaming?
Wow, Steve-O, look, it's absolutely crazy, isn't it? I mean, half a decade's gone, and you're nearly at the 7.5k mark, which is fantastic. And yeah, just really looking forward to tomorrow night. But it's just how time flies, how the channel's evolved. The power and the strength of the elite FPL community keeps going on, keeps getting stronger. And I think it's great that you're still streaming and the channel is still such a captive audience.
Ruin my life.
Oh, yeah, that as well. We'll get into that more tomorrow night. But I just think it's great that, Friday evening or Sunday evening or Saturday, whenever you guys are streaming, people can come on and just have a big moan about how crap their team's been. I think that's what it's all about at the end of the day, isn't it, really?
It is indeed. I don't even look at... I'm sorry to say this, I don't even look at the chat. Oh, John Harris has kindly donated £10 of his hard-earned cash. If you could just add an extra couple of zeros to that, John, I may be able to, not have to work tomorrow. He says here, in all seriousness, he says, congratulations on the 5th anniversary of your first ever live stream. Still enjoying this channel after all this time. Get some donuts on me. Actually, it's not going to be donuts, John. I've got some Lindt chocolate, which I kind of want to consume. Donuts, I'm just kind of a bit... Yeah. Oh, actually, I tell a lie, John. I'll tell you what, John. I will buy the delicious Lidl's Christmas muffins that they've released, chocolate and orange flavour and carrot cake flavour. They are fantastic, and it's one of my food recommendations. I did tweet it to Ash from FPL Juice. I did say that I recommend him doing that. Dan, I have a funny tweet or a thread to read you from another friend of the show. I don't know if the audience can hear that. Did it come through all right, audience? Let us know.
Through Super Chat.
Oh, here we go.
Congratulations on the 5th anniversary of your first ever live stream. Thumbs up. Still enjoying this channel after all this time. Get some donuts on me for tomorrow's stream.
There we are. You may have heard that in chat. Let us know if you did or not. Yeah, so Alex Vollo put out, he seems to be going through a stage right now, Dan, which is very, very funny, especially for my amusement, of very, very sarcastic attacks on the FPL community, shall we say, in the sense of kind of similar to how myself and Jason, Phil and many others do actually, which is FPL is within reason an enjoyable game, but people have seemed to have turned it into something which is a lot more, I don't know, too serious or whatever. But anyhow, the point being is that Alex Vollo replied to a tweet from FPL Focal. And he just said, the question was, what's your unpopular FPL opinion? Now, Dan, I know I'm throwing this on you straight away. Do you have an unpopular FPL opinion?
I don't know.
Okay, thanks for that. See you later. Well, Alex Vollo certainly had a lot to say. So here we go. This is what he says. And he's here now. He's here live with us watching. Hope you're well, Alex, in all seriousness. Number one, if your FPL season is over, then this is the best thing that can happen to you. You will have the opportunity to try all possible strategies and approaches throughout the season without being tied to rank. To be honest with you, there are a lot of people, Dan, which... In fact, you were one of them. When I messaged you the other day about that video we did from three years ago, when I was actually coincidentally, I think, in this room, I can't remember now, and you said that you were thinking of quitting FPL. And really, as Alex says here in a sarcastic way, but actually he's got a point, if you think your FPL season's over, why not just have some fun with it?
Yeah, I look back at that video, I cringe actually. I think it's embarrassing, like just wanting to quit. I just, when I look back at it, I just think, what was I talking about, really? Because it's at the end of the day, it's only a game. Like, it's not. It's and like you say, your season can change pretty quickly, and you can almost take the pressure off by not. If you can almost feel like you're giving up the ghost a little bit, and you can just, like you said, enjoy the game for what it is, rather than taking it too seriously.
Mostly, there's no difference between casuals and so-called engaged managers. The instruments are the same. The only thing different is the amount of waffling, which, again, very, very true. FPL content on Twitter is 99% spamming. You got a lot of love for that. That is 100%. That is absolutely... You're not on Twitter, are you, Dan?
I am, but I have no interest in it whatsoever.
I don't blame you. The division into Grass FC and Analytics FC is a bit meaningless, as nothing works in isolation, no matter how much you want to believe it, which is very, very true. There's no correlation between a person's rank and the quality of his advice. Now, that is very actually true, Dad, because you are somebody that's got, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, you are very, very knowledgeable when it comes to football. When it comes to FPL, though, it doesn't tally with that knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, for FPL, you have to be committed the whole season, and you have to navigate all these double game weeks and all these various this, that, the other. My enjoyment of FPL pretty much is watching football and, you know, transferring that into my picks and whatnot, not devising massive spreadsheets. And this is, I'm not saying this in a derogatory or negative way. It's just not my enjoyment of the game. Really, I like to take gambles and whatnot and be a bit risky, and it doesn't always pay off.
No, it doesn't, and it's I say it's slowly showing. I mean, it's still very tight in the Torbay Elite League, where obviously it all started, and I'm above you now. But anyway, we'll come on to that in a minute. I've deliberately put your team up on screen for now. This is Dan's team up on screen. Back to Alex. Expected data is largely a manipulation tool for content creators for the most part. They use it for a cherry picking based on... Sorry, let me start that again. For the most part, they use it for a cherry picking based on the lazy... Oh dear, Alex. I know you're Ukrainian, mate, but this English lessons with Steve over here. On the lazy ranging of quantitative indicators without getting bothered working with data itself. I'm not even going to go into it. That's just gone over my head, Alex. Alex, he continues. Mikalenko is essential. This is a good one here, Dan. Deadline streams, apart from Streamception, deadline streams are amazing. They help me fall asleep instantly.
Yeah.
The difference between he's underperforming and he's shite is whether that player is in your team or not. That's very, very true. And number 10, FPL is mostly about luck. For those managers who only approach to the game, whose only approach to the game is luck, but they will never admit it to themselves. Very true. Many people want to win this game, but many of them are not willing to put in the effort and actually play the game. Yep, that's very, very true. Most of the Twitter Tacticos research starts and ends on the SofaScore results tab. And then that's where it ends. And a lot of very salient points there from Alex in a very, sarcastic manner. However, there isn't, to be honest, I agree with a lot of it. The world of playing this game is, as we've discussed to death a billion times, some people take it far too seriously. Some people take a very laxed attitude towards it, don't they, Dan?
I don't know what you're talking about, Steve. I think we should just carry on.
I have actually got your team up on screen here, and you were mentioning you've got problems, and there is one flag which annoys me in the sense of you may be able to help with my decision in what I do. It's this Saka yellow flag. Now, Martinelli, Arteta has come out and said that he didn't train on Thursday. What do we read into the Saka news, and what did you feel when he played against Sevilla and he came off injured when you watched the match with Arsenal?
I was good because he scored such a fantastic goal, didn't he, for that second one on the counter-attack. Like, yeah, the injuries are kind of mounting up for us, and I think, I don't know, is it really no disrespect, but is it really worth risking him for this game? As an Arsenal fan, you know, we've got Reece Nelson there that could do with some game time and an opportunity. I think this is the game for him, really. And if he's not trained... But the thing with Arteta is, you know, it's kind of... I remember there was the game against... the game in the Champions League, the French team. It's complete. The name of the team's completely gone out of my head, but it doesn't matter. The point... FC Lons, the point being is that he played Saka in that game, and he shouldn't have played Saka in that game. I think it's just a player that's played so many games for Arsenal, so many games for England, and like he's sort of like even against Newcastle, he wasn't really on it, but he put that right on Wednesday. I mean, I'm not. I personally, I'd prefer to almost see Saka just rested up for this game, get Reece Nelson to go. I know that's not what FPL managers want to hear, and I've got Saka in my team, but just talking from the perspective of an Arsenal fan, but I wouldn't be amazingly surprised if he plays. Having said all that, based on his previous decision to play him against FC Lens, I think it was in the Champions League.
I always think about the West Ham game in the Carabao Cup where he brought him and Odegaard on at 3-0 down. I just think, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? This bloke is, or this kid. I mean, how old is he? 23? Saka? 22, 23?
Is he younger than that?
Well, either way, he's in his early 20s.
He's 22.
22. So this is a kid who has played a lot of football and is nursing a small injury. And yet Arteta is persisting on playing this kid, no matter how good he is, over and over. And I just think he's running him into the ground personally. Very similar to this Maddison injury. Now, are you aware Maddison's now out till the new year?
Yeah, it's pretty unfortunate.
Yeah, so he's out till the new year, give or take. And I personally think that the injury, well, not injury, but when he fell to the ground in that match, I forget who it was, and he was taken off, and then he just ran it off. And I think that he did a lot more damage to himself then than what he thought and what maybe the physios and doctors thought. He's then played a couple more matches. Something happened in this Chelsea game which has really niggled it, and it's now put him out for a long time. I can see this happening to Saka potentially in the near future if he's just persistently being played in matches which is unnecessary, and eventually it's just going to quite literally snap where, oh, sorry mate, he's now going to be out for 4 or 5 months. Like, it's just poor man management, I think, Dan, from your manager.
Yeah, I think it's almost the case that Lens game when, you know, why not give Reece Nelson a chance? You know, he's got a new contract, and then obviously we're going into the international qualifiers. He doesn't need to play in those games either because we've already qualified. So you know, there's no point in him playing in these. He needs to rest from Arsenal. He needs to rest from England, and just, you know, because he's just been playing for so many games, really. And he looked off the pace last weekend against Newcastle. He didn't play well in that game. But the problem with it's weird because Arteta and Southgate have got like a similar, I don't know whether you call it ideology or whatever, where they have their favourites and they'll still play players and they'll play these players again and again and again and again and again. Whereas I'd just like to see, you know, what Reece Nelson can do in a Premier League game, really.
Twisted Sparky saying here, and again, another player that you'll be fully aware of, but a player that, as he quite rightly says, lost him a few years at the very top is Wayne Rooney. He was ran into the ground, and you know, a player in which, I mean, you, like I said, you'll know more than me, but this was a player who started at the age of 16, left Everton for Man United, and was just played over and over and over through God knows what pain barriers he had. And like Twisted Sparky says here, it probably cut him a few years short.
Yeah, you know, possibly did. I mean, Rooney obviously started when he was 16, and I was watching something on YouTube when he scored the first goal against us, and he was a man at 16, wasn't he, with his build and everything, but whether he led like the healthiest lifestyle as well. But look, Rooney did it. You know, he won all the trophies at least at club level anyway. But yeah, another player that was, you know, just playing all the games, and at some point, and particularly with the amount of football that we have these days, it's gonna catch up with you. But I think most people watching and tuning in live now, like myself, like you, will be thinking, do we keep Saka in the team?
Well, you've just asked a question. What is the answer, Dan?
I mean, I'm not Mikel Arteta. I don't know what he's going to do. My gut instinct says it'll play him because, we we lost last weekend to Newcastle. Okay, we got a good result against Sevilla, but we need the points really because, we've fallen behind at the top. And yeah, I think he'll play actually. But once again, I'm not Mikel Arteta and, don't come back on me on that one. But I'm just more looking at my bench and thinking I need to sort out my bloody defence.
Well, FPL Plonker retweeted out a predicted lineup from X amount of God knows how many experts and papers and whatnot, and they had Saka at 86%, they reckon, starting. But another player that people are keen on, including myself, is Nketiah. He was training. Is he going to play? Is he going to start more specifically, or do you think he just gets benched and it's going to be potentially Trossard, Martinelli and, well, Reece Nelson potentially, or Saka?
I mean, I'd like to see Trossard play personally after he got another goal in Europe, and I think, I really want to see Trossard start again for us in that position. I'm a big fan of him. Really, ever since I was a fan of him when he was playing for Brighton, and then when we signed him, I was really happy with that signing. And since he's come in, the numbers are pretty good for him. So I'd like to see Trossard start. Really, I don't know whether Nketiah will get into the fold. He's not in the England squad for what that's worth. So maybe the injury is bad. Really. So yeah, I mean, we looked sharp and fluid on Wednesday with that particular lineup. So I'd like to see it again in this game, really. And I think the way Martinelli played on Wednesday, he was electric on Wednesday. And those Sevilla players, I mean, they just it was like they just couldn't keep up with him and ended up having to hack him out at the end of the game, which wasn't too pleased seeing. But yeah, Martinelli is one that I expect to do well tomorrow.
Yeah. He is the player that I'm thinking of getting in with my heart. He is the one player that I think could tear us to shreds. The downside to him, though, is that I don't like him for the preceding few fixtures afterwards. Brentford, Wolves, Luton, Aston Villa, Brighton. We know Saka is a guaranteed starter if and when fit. We know this. But tomorrow is, for me, one of those where I can see Martinelli going off. I can see Trossard going off. Even like you quite rightly say, it's going to be one of those weeks potentially where Reece Nelson actually is the highest scoring player this week and no one's even mentioning him other than you. So everybody can subscribe because of your advice, Dad, to be honest with you. But do you think that I should just do the transfer that I've been thinking all week, which is just Maddison out, Martinelli in, done? Because he's guaranteed to play tomorrow no matter what.
I think it's a decent move. I mean, I shouldn't really be advising a rival, but based on the eye test on Wednesday against Sevilla, and Martinelli looking good, looking sharp, in a favourable home fixture, not guaranteed of anything in the Premier League, but I think it makes a lot of sense, really. And like you said at the start, the fixtures are decent. Obviously, Brentford away is a tough game, isn't it? Wolves at home, Luton away. I mean, Luton obviously had a great result last Sunday afternoon against Liverpool. I don't like to take anything for granted in the Premier League because it's so competitive these days. But I think, yeah, it's a decent run of fixtures the next 4 games. Really, I mean, I'm looking at getting in an Arsenal defender to replace my my Romero, which that was a brilliant transfer, getting him in and then him getting sent off. So never do that again.
Who are you thinking of bringing in then? Saliba, Gabriel, even at a push Zinchenko if he even is a starter for you anymore?
Yeah, I think for the money, I think Gabriel's a decent shout, isn't he? Really, was a threat from sort of set pieces last season. I mean, Zinchenko, 4.9? Is it really worth the extra? Oh, it's only 0.1, but still, I feel Gabriel should start. So probably Gabriel at this moment in time.
Oh, you're wanting to go Gabriel? Well, that's a surprise because a lot of people, including myself, feel that he could be an unfortunate rotation risk, or is that just poppycock and a load of nonsense? And actually, no, he's your first team centre back now.
Well, I mean, since he started against Manchester United in game week 4 in the 3-1 victory, hopefully Jason's listening in, he started all of the games apart from the game against Sheffield United. So, I mean, possible rotation risk, but I mean, looking at that, all of those games apart from one game, I don't know. I mean, you've also got, let's have a look, obviously Zinchenko as well. I'm not totally guaranteed he's going to start. I think it's a decent. I still think Gabriel's a decent shout. Who else has been saying that Gabriel's not going to start for Arsenal? Who?
Well, Alex follows favourite FPL community.
Oh.
So, another question regarding your team. So, like you mentioned, you got Romero definitely out. Tsimikas, who we don't know whether he'll start or not. Dan Burn definitely out. Saka, it's right now. If you were to put a percentage of him starting, is what, Dan? 75%, 80%, 60%? What's your percentage on him starting tomorrow?
80%.
Wow. Okay, so you're thinking Saka's 80% start, but let's just say we're listening into Streamception, and we hear the news that Saka will not be starting tomorrow, and you're available to hear that news and everything. What are you thinking of with this team, Dan? Because you've got Turner, who won't be playing for certainly the fact that this new goalkeeper started last week. Mark Southerns now thinks that nope, Turner's probably lost his place. So you've only got Areola, like I just mentioned, Tsimikas, who we never know now. Romero definitely out. Matty Cash is fine. Saka, again, if he's injured, if he doesn't start, that's another player out. So we're already down to Romero, Saka, and potentially Tsimikas. That's 3 people in your team. Dan Burn 4. What are you thinking of doing with your team, Dan?
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I'm just looking at it now. I mean, we've obviously got Archer who obviously scored a great goal against Wolves last weekend. Might have to bring him in because I don't want to do anything stupid like -8s or this, that, the other. I don't really want to take point hits at this part of the season. But I mean, obviously Son, Matomo, McGinn, Salah, fine. Areola, fine. Cash, fine.
Can I just interject there? Romero to Gabriel is a lock for you, or an Arsenal defender. It's a lock.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, so that's done. Are you then thinking then, like you're saying here, to just avoid a -4 and essentially play Archer ahead of, say, Saka for argument's sake?
Yeah, Archer can be my backup, really. I mean, that's what he's there for. I mean, I've got Colwill on the bench. But yeah, no, Archer can be, he can come in and be my backup for if Saka doesn't play. I don't think that'll be too bad based on his goal last weekend, and that's what he's there for, really. Brighton away is a tough fixture, but I don't really think it justifies me, taking Saka out for when he comes back for, after the international games for the game against Brentford away, Wolves at home, Luton away, and so on. So, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense now I look at it, really.
So I'll be doing a -4 no matter what to bring in this Arsenal player, which is probably going to be Martinelli. Unless, and let's just say, Dan, I hear the news that Saka is going to be starting. Do I still get him and just think to myself, well, he's probably going to play maybe the first half, maybe going into the second half, depending on how he's feeling? Or do I just think, no, Steve-O, just go with the fully fit Martinelli?
Who would you be taking out to get Martinelli?
It's Maddison, so Maddison will be gone.
Oh, right, okay, sure, yeah. Well, yeah, as much as I, hate to advise a bitter rival, I think it makes a lot of sense. Really, like I said, based on the fixtures, based on the form, who's the better option at that price point to get in?
What, of Martinelli, you mean?
Yeah.
Then it looks like I'll do it today then, because he's going to be going up in price apparently tonight, so I think I'll do it. It will mean, though, within the Torbay Elite League, that will mean that you're level on points with me at that point. So me and you will actually be on the same points as one another. I'd then be, officially, I'd be about 10 points. Well, I would be. I'd be 10 points behind Gary Munday, that's top, with this -4, depending on the kind of players that they've got, what they're looking at to be bringing in and everything. I just want to quickly go through some of the things in chat before we move on here. Lucas Dunn saying that I think Saka will play. Arteta always does this. It's all tactical. What are you thinking, Dan, on that comment?
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Saka does seem like a resilient boy, doesn't he, to keep, playing so much and bouncing back from injuries. My only concern is, obviously, if he does play this game, then he plays for England. And I don't, obviously I'm an England fan. I'm not one of these people that moans about the international break, but he doesn't need to play against Malta or North Macedonia. We should try Bowen for those games. See what Bowen can do, because he's been in really good form for West Ham. So yeah, but I wouldn't be surprised if he starts. And I think personally, there's no point in me taking him out and doing -4s and stupid stuff when I'll probably want him back in for the following fixtures after the break.
Nick Sharp saying, maybe do a free hit, Dan.
That's not going to happen.
Animations is thinking of doing a -8 this week. Craig Boy Crook saying, if Nketiah doesn't play, I'll be gutted. I brought him in for the Burnley early doors. To be fair, Craig, you've got him a 0.1 price rise out of him, to be fair. Dan, as a percentage of Nketiah starting tomorrow? What are you thinking?
I don't think he's going to start. Sorry.
I think I agree with Martin. Well, I said it to Ben Dinnery on Twitter. I think, honestly, I feel it's going to be Trossard, Martinelli and Saka. What was Champions League game? And Nketiah will come on for 20 minutes at the end of the game. Neo Morph is saying Arsenal's latest tweet hints at Trossard starting. Or am I looking into this too much? He's asking you, Dan.
I think he's possibly looking into it a little bit too much, really. So it's just relax yourself a little bit.
Animations is thinking, do I go with Gabriel or Lascelles, Dan?
Gabriel, like me.
Go with Gabriel like Dan. Is that the Arsenal bias there?
Oh, massively, yeah. Definitely. After the way those Newcastle boys were last weekend.
Twisted Park saying here, if I was Arteta, I would play Trossard tomorrow. I mean, you've already covered that, really. Odin is saying, I still think 30 minutes for Nketiah is equal to Palmer's 90 minutes due to the fixture in my case. So essentially, Odin is asking, really, does he play Cole Palmer at home to former club Man City, or does he play Nketiah, who could play 30 minutes for Arsenal? Who would you start of the two, Nketiah or Palmer? I play Palmer personally.
Yeah, I think Palmer, because we always know players, he's on penalties, players always score against their old teams, and more so because of the Nketiah's injury and and whatnot, and obviously not getting picked during the week, not getting in the England squad. You're looking at the information in front of you and thinking, well, you might as well play a player that's going to presumably play the whole game, really.
I put a poll up for anybody that wants to vote. We've had 97 votes in it so far. How many flags in your team? 40% have got one flag. That's amazing. 40% considering only 31% have got two and 20% with three. 9% with 4+. That's incredible. Make sure, like I always say, to make sure you're hitting the subscribe button and the like button. It always helps the channel grow, as they say. Dan, shall we crack on with looking at fixtures, previewing this game week, mate?
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So I've already released a video, everybody. It was a members only video. It had all the history in and everything. I'd rather hear Dan's thoughts about the games as we progress through this. As ever, if you want to put your score predictions into the chat, by all means. But we are tomorrow, Dan, kicking off with... Oh, God. Wolves versus a very depleted Spurs. You're going to be watching this?
Don't think so, no.
What are you going to be doing instead, then?
All right, bloody hell. I'm playing tennis tomorrow, I think, actually.
Well, that's going to be more enjoyable than this game. This is...
Yeah.
I say that. Wolves at home are a completely different animal to being away from home. I really have this sneaking feeling, Dan, that Wolves are going to get something out of this game. I've predicted Spurs to win. But I'll tell you what, Dan, if Wolves were to win, I wouldn't be surprised, mate.
I think it'll be a decent match, actually. I don't necessarily think it's going to be... I think Spurs are still going to go for it. I know they've got suspensions and they've got injuries. I think it'll be a good game to watch. Like you said, Wolves at home have had some good results this season. Obviously, without Neto, which is such a big loss to them. I know what you mean, though. It's after that defeat on Monday, that crazy game and whatnot. Honestly, I think Spurs are going to bounce back, though. I'm saying all this. I'm gonna say Spurs are going to edge it, but I don't think it'll be easy for them. But I'm going to say 2-1 to Spurs.
Yeah, that's what I've got in the Super Brew. I'm going with a 2-1 myself. I just think that the fact that they've just got that slight edge of quality over Wolves, I think that it will just be in their favour. I mean, WhoScored.com have got Emerson Royal at left back, Dyer and Højbjerg in the middle, centre mids. James on Planet FPL is thinking that it'd be Davis at centre back tomorrow along with Dyer. But the fact that Højbjerg came on the other day, maybe suggesting that way. That's kind of how WhoScored.com work it out as. But they haven't got Bentancur in the starting 11. They've got whatever his name is. Is it Papi Sarr? Is it that his name? First name Papi Sarr?
I think that's the one, yeah.
Yeah, they've got him as the number 10. I don't think that'll be happening at all. I think it will be Bentancur myself. Just a few predictions here. Calvin, good afternoon, FPL Penguin. He's saying Wolves to win 3-1, Dan.
No, I think he's been on the sauce already. I don't think it's going to be that.
Well, I'll tell you who has been on the...
I'd love it if it was, but I don't see it.
I'll tell you who has been on the sauce. Podner thinking it's going to be 3-0 to Tottenham.
Yeah, he's definitely had one too many, hasn't he? Bless him.
He has indeed. We then move on to the next fixture, which is, well, it is us. It's us away at your guys. I am fearing the worst for this game. Truth be told, Dan, I've predicted 5-0 to you guys. I think that this is going to be, if you want to put the sword to us, you will do. I think that this is a game in which I think your players and Arteta should be saying, you know what, I think we should be showboating here and showing the Premier League what we're all about when we're given the opportunity to. And I really do think that Martinelli and whoever's on the right-hand side for Arsenal, whether it is Saka, whether it is Reece Nelson, are going to tear us to shreds. I really do fear the life for this game here, and that's why I'm going with 5-0 to Arsenal, Dan.
Wow. Yeah. Look, we need to get a win because obviously we lost to Newcastle last Saturday, and we want to go into the international games like on a high. We are good at the Emirates, and I did like what I saw on Wednesday against Sevilla. I mean, Sevilla aren't amazing, but you know, Trossard, Martinelli, Saka, that was a lot of pace, a lot of dynamism. I'm gonna say 3-0 Arsenal, I think, for this game.
I'm sure Dom Dewsbury is trolling here, but are Burnley a low block team? Because Arsenal actually struggle this season against low blocks. We are not a low block team. We're too expansive for that. We're stupidly doing what Spurs were doing the other day, which is playing a high line. We're going to get absolutely annihilated in this particular fixture. And like I say, I'm not looking forward to it at all. Oh, God, this next game, Dan, where there's a chance that Elise could potentially start. Unlikely, he'd probably come off the bench, but certainly Eze will be in contention to start this. It is Crystal Palace versus Everton. I've seen Crystal Palace a couple of times this season, and my fucking God. I mean, I was so angry when AU scored that 90... Do you remember him, Calvin? AU in virtual FPL? When AU scored that 98th minute wonder strike. It really angered me because for Sky I had, ironically, Romero. He looked like he was going to do really well in that game, and that last second goal for Crystal Palace against an Everton team who we all know how they play. It's 2 backs of 5, and then let's let Decore, McNeil or Calvert-Lewin move up the pitch occasionally with some form of small counter-attack, and they seem to nick a goal. This game has got, in my opinion, 1-1 written all over it, Dan. Something you'll be looking out for on Match of the Day?
Doubtful that one. I mean, I haven't really got any real stake in this game, but like you said, Everton quite defensive and not really sure about Palace this season. I just think a draw. I don't know many people that will have their players or their assets in their team. I mean, do you know anyone that's got Palace or Everton players?
It's either Guay or Anderson, the two centre backs.
No, Anderson. That's a good shout. To be fair, you know, he's done well this season. Do you know what? It could be one of those games where you write off and then it ends up being a really entertaining game. But I doubt it. I know, but you know, if I had a free bet tomorrow, I'd be going for a draw for that one.
Edgeworth has got the popular choice of Mitchell in his team. Again, I just can't quite see that. Well, I say not paying off. I don't even know what I'm saying here because I'm being distracted by the fact that we've got Man United, the team in which, let's read out Man United's form of late, shall we? In fact, shall we play a game with you, Dan? A quiz?
Go for it, man. Yeah.
Right then. Off the top of your head, okay, we're going to play the win, lose or draw game with Dan, with Man United's results. So here we go. When Man United played Wolves the first game of the season, did they win, lose or draw?
They won, fortuitously.
When they played Tottenham, did they win, lose or draw?
They lost.
When they played Nottingham Forest in the Premier League, did they win, lose or draw?
Once again, fortuitously, they won.
When they played you lot, did they win, lose or draw?
They lost.
Against Brighton?
They lost.
Well done, with so far so good. In the Champions League against Bayern Munich, how did that go?
They lost.
When they played Burnley in the Premier League, how did that go?
They won.
In the League Cup against Crystal Palace, how did that go?
They won.
They did indeed. And in the Premier League, the following match, how did they get on against Crystal Palace?
They lost.
And then against Galatasaray in the Champions League?
They lost. Zaha.
Against Brentford, how did they get on in the Premier League?
They won. McTominay.
Bloody hell, Dan, this is going very, very well. Against Sheffield United?
They won.
Back in the Champions League, how did they get on against FC Copenhagen?
They lost.
Back in the Premier League against Man City? Only the 4 more games to go.
They lost.
Against Newcastle in the League Cup?
Lost 3-0.
Against Fulham in the Premier League?
They won 1-0.
And then finally, the other day against Copenhagen, how did they get on?
They lost.
They did indeed lose. What a game that will be, and we're never going to return to that again. They have not drawn a game this season, Dan. It's quite extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, did they beat Copenhagen at home? I can't remember.
We've just sold us, Dan. It was a win. 1-0.
Yes. Yeah. So, but I mean, yeah, I mean, that game against Copenhagen was just, I was in the pub watching the Arsenal game, and when I left, it was 3-2 to United, and then the next day I just found out it was 4-3. It was just crazy. It's like a soap opera, this, at the moment. But, having said all that, I mean, they're at home to Luton. Luton, who had an excellent result against Liverpool last Sunday. Not going to be pushovers. I mean, surely we'd say United will win this one. Maybe 1-0, 2-0.
Yeah, I think that this game is going to be just a typical professional job from Man United here, and it's going to be 2-0. I mean, Luton don't get battered. Man United, I mean, I say they can't score many goals, but their recent fixtures, their last 6, including Champions League, League Cup, Premier League, 3 wins, 3 draws, 2-1 against Sheffield United, 1-0 against Copenhagen, lose 3-0 to Man City, lose 3-0 to Newcastle, beat Fulham 1-0, and then lose 4-3 to Man United. Essentially, when they're winning, it's by 1 goal. 1-0, 1-0, 2-1. You know, whereas when they're losing, it's heavy defeats. So even though there's a goal, technically there's a goal in it, but Copenhagen 4-3, and then we got Newcastle, Man City beating them 3-0. So I can't see Man United losing to Luton for obvious reasons, but certainly I can't really see them scoring many goals. I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be that difficult for Man United to win. Like I say, like you said, 2-0, 3-0. I think I put 2-0 in the Super Brew. What are the people in the chat saying quickly here? Either two... Well, no, they're too far behind people here. So, moving on to Bournemouth. Your local team, Dan.
Of course.
Bournemouth against Newcastle.
Yeah, Newcastle... You know, I mean, last weekend that was more like a fight than a football game. But losing to Dortmund.
What do you mean by that? Expand on that.
Well, I mean, it was funny because Mr. Loader explained to me that Eddie Howard had met with Diego Simeone whilst he was out of management to learn about his tactics. So we say at Atletico Madrid, some of the entrepreneurial spirit that he applies to his tactics with his players, and the time wasting and this and that the other. And I don't know, it was aggressive, like Callum Wilson pushing Saliba. I mean, Saliba's a big boy, he can stick up for himself, but Almiron, Van and they were pretty shithousery, I think the term is. So yeah, I was quite pleased to see Dortmund win during the week, actually, I've got to say. I've always had a soft spot for Dortmund anyway. And obviously it's my second team in the Premier League, Bournemouth, who desperately need the points, and Newcastle have got injuries. I'm going to go for a Bournemouth win. I'm going to go 2-1 Bournemouth.
Is that out of spite, is it?
Yeah, of course it is, man.
I'll tell you what, though. Martin Keenan making a point here about Livramento. Now, genuinely, Livramento was somebody that I was thinking, I'd like to bring him in, but it's just the fact that it was bloody 4.3 million. If he was 4 million, 4.1, I would take a punt on Livramento. Obviously, he did very well for Southampton. And he's just got himself into the Newcastle team due to fortuitous circumstances. Played right side of front three for Newcastle the other day. Again, I think Eddie Howe was deliberately playing a team of defenders, essentially, to not lose. And it ended up being, what was it? Was it 1-0 or 2-0?
2-0.
2-0, yeah. Livramento, Dan, do you think he's for 4.3 worth bringing in? And maybe have you even thought about bringing him in, Dan?
Yeah, potentially. Ironically, I've seen him play at Bournemouth when I watched England under-21s play. I think it was last year or something like that. So I've actually seen him in the flesh at Bournemouth's ground, the Vitality Stadium. Bit ironic, but I mean, 4.3 million. It's not bad, is it? I mean, I'm saying 2-1, but there's always got to be a shock result each game week, right? Hasn't there? There's like Luton drawing with Liverpool. You know, that was the shock result last week, wasn't it? Really. You never know. It could be at the Emirates tomorrow, the shock result. But it's not a bad option, really. I mean, what are Newcastle's fixtures coming up after this game in the international?
Well, I'll tell you what. They are very good. I mean, I've just seen someone saying here, Steve, regretting not having the Newcastle defenders. I've got 2. Fucking hell. Watch the videos, you'd see. Jesus Christ. Newcastle's fixtures, yeah, so they are actually pretty good, as Jason kind of made me aware when we were going through it. So, Bournemouth, Chelsea, Man United, Everton, Tottenham, Fulham and Luton are the next 7.
It's not bad, is it, at all? I mean, Callum Wilson as well.
He's out injured, isn't he?
Is he?
Yeah, he pulled up in the game against... Were you lot?
Oh, of course.
Or was it in was it in your game or Champions League that he pulled up in? I think it was your game.
Sure. I know he got called up to the squad yesterday, so that's what threw me. Sorry. Ignore that.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be playing tomorrow. And I'll tell you what, the thought of potentially, and this is just me thinking aloud here, of going, do you know what, to hell with this. I'm going to go with triple Newcastle defence in my team. Sack off what's-his-face, Matty Cash, and really target Newcastle defence. I think could be a really, really, really good payoff, Dan, because, like I say, with Shimikas, we don't know whether he's going to be playing or not, unfortunately, and their next fixtures, Brentford and Man City, are absolutely shocking. They're terrible. Brentford are going to score. Man City are definitely going to be scoring. Whereas Newcastle, on the other hand, with these fixtures of Bournemouth away, I can see that being a really tight game. I think I predicted, even though I've predicted 2-1, honestly, 1-0. Chelsea at home, it's a home fixture, and Chelsea are absolutely shocking. Man United at home, well, Man United are shocking. Everton away, well, I think Newcastle could probably contain them. This could be an opportunity, Dan. 3 Newcastle defenders, it may sound mad, but actually, Trippier, Lascelles and Livramento. What are you reckoning that, Dan? Triple Newcastle defence, or am I giving you ideas?
I think you've lost the plot, mate. You're going to play three defenders from one team. A game when Bournemouth are going to score.
Why not? That happened last season. Vince Chapman did it, and he was doing very, very well.
Yeah, I mean, you just watched Solanke score tomorrow, but maybe I'm trying to get you in your head a little bit. Maybe it's actually a really good move, a really bold move. I mean, I always feel quite often last season, and I've done it a couple of times this season, playing like double up on Man City defence, for example, and then they're battering the team, and the other team gets a consolation, but could be worth it. I mean, if you look, obviously Dan Burns out, and that's a big miss to their defence. But let's see, obviously they kept a clean sheet against us. They let in 2 away to Wolves, clean sheet at home to Palace, let in 2 away to West Ham. It's a pattern forming here. Kept a clean sheet at home to your boys. Kept a clean sheet away to Sheffield United. All right, clean sheet at home to Brentford. They lost to Brighton 3-1. So. There's the numbers for you.
Tell you what, though, those home fixtures, though, people will look at them and go, "Oh God, it's Chelsea, Man United." Cares? Who cares? They Chelsea in front of goal they look terrible even when they had 2-man advantage the other day. So it's a thought process. I'm obviously not going to be doing it this week, but maybe after the Chelsea Man United game, I don't know. I don't know, but it's not an immediate transfer I need to do, because talking of Aston Villa, Sunday we kick off. There's a small chance I may do a stream on Sunday. May do. We got 4 kickoffs. Aston Villa versus Fulham, Brighton versus Sheffield United. Sorry, sir?
I said Super Sunday.
Well, yeah. Apart from the fact that on Sky Sports they're showing West Ham versus Nottingham Forest. But Aston Villa versus Fulham, Brighton, Sheffield United, Liverpool, Brentford, West Ham, Nottingham Forest, as I just mentioned, and then obviously Chelsea versus Man City. Aston Villa at home to Fulham, Dan. Are Aston Villa actually going to keep in fact, I'm sure I did this quiz question to you the other day. In fact, I'm almost certain I did. So I'm not going to ask you again. For the last time that Aston Villa kept a clean sheet was back in October, would you believe? They just cannot keep clean sheets, mate, whatsoever. In the Premier League, that is. They did keep a 1-0 win against Zrinjski Mostar, but it was back in September, against Chelsea, where they beat them 1-0. Since then, it's been 6-1. They got their clean sheet against who I just mentioned, Zrinjski Moscow, and then it's been 1-1, 4-1, 4-1, 3-1, 2-0, 2-1. They're going to keep a clean sheet in this game against Fulham. I think they should be.
I'd hope so. And obviously I've got Cash, I've got McGinn, which is a bit of a random pick. But yeah, I mean, Fulham haven't really been firing on all cylinders this season, have they, at all? So I mean, I didn't expect that result against Forest last weekend, though. That I suppose that was, well, another one of the shock results last weekend, to lose away to Forest 2-0.
I don't think it was a shock.
Really?
No, Nottingham Forest, a completely different team at home compared to away from home. If it was at Aston Villa and Nottingham Forest beat them, I'm thinking, hold on a minute here, what's going on? In fact, it was at Nottingham Forest. I'm not really surprised. They've only lost 2 times in a year, Dan. Would you believe? At home.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's a pretty intimidating ground to go to, isn't it? Okay. Well, I mean, I think in this game, Villa they'll want a good result before the break, and they'll just want to put that right from last weekend. I don't think Fulham have got enough to trouble them. I'm not massively confident with a clean sheet now, based on what you just said. But I'm going to go... I think Villa could have a bit of fun here. I'm going to go 3-1 to Villa, actually.
3-1 to Villa. It seems to be their favourite scoreline. Fulham, they're a team that... Well, you said about patterns. They're a team that seem to not be able to score, and then they score, then not score, then score. So 2-0, 3-1, 2-0, 1-1, 3-1, 1-0. They are a team in which don't score many at all. If I look through their season so far, at home, well, in total, they have only scored 9 goals all season, Dan. 9. Which is, well, that is shocking, to be honest with you. If I look through their fixtures this season, since the opening day, they beat Everton 1-0, then they lose 3-0 to Fulham. They drew 2-2 with you, of all people. In fact, a third of their goals were scored against you, of all teams. In the League Cup, they drew 1-1 with Tottenham. They then scored against Man City. They beat Luton 1-0. They draw with Crystal Palace 0-0. In the League Cup, they scored twice against Norwich. But back in the Premier League, they then lose 2-0 to Chelsea, as I just mentioned. They then beat Sheffield United 3-1, but then it's 2-0 to Tottenham, draw 1-1 with Brighton, and then they lose 1-0 to Fulham. I can see this. I mean, you said 3-1. I think Aston Villa have got enough to keep a clean sheet in this. I've gone 2-0, I think I did.
Yeah, I mean, I look at Fulham's team now. Obviously, Paulinho is the player, isn't he? But I think he could be off to Bayern Munich in January. They got, obviously, our old boy, really was an old boy, Willian, Wobie as well. That's another throwback. And Bentancur, Raul, Jimenez, and Leno, another one of our old boys as well. So they seem to get results when it matters against teams like Luton and Sheffield United. Enough to stay up, but for this game, yeah, I think Villa will smoke them. But I'm gonna stay with 3-1.
I think probably because defensively they're capable of keeping those clean sheets and do well against the crap teams. When it comes to, you know, the likes of Aston Villa, Liverpool, etc., that they just get exposed. Even though, ironically, again, what happened in that 2-2 draw? Can you remember against you guys?
Yeah, I mean, but I think Ramsdale was still playing at the time, but there was a mistake for the first goal, and then I know that we went 2-1 up, I think, and Ketia scored, and they just got a late goal, ironically, from that man, Paulinho, that was linked so heavily with Bayern at the time. It was early in the season. And yeah, he's a quality. People in the chat say he's a quality player. Someone I wouldn't mind at the Emirates actually, but yeah, I mean Mitrovic obviously gone, hasn't he? That was a big blow for them, and yeah, but I think Fulham enough to stay in the Premier League, but you know they're not. I don't think they're going to win this game.
Well, I've got it here. Pereira scored in the first minute, and then Saka scored a penalty. Vieira assisted Nketiah to make it 2-1 in the 72nd minute, and like you said, Paulinho in the 87th minute scored. They also had a player sent on in. Can you remember who the player was? Never even heard of him myself.
What, for Arsenal they got sent off?
No, for Fulham.
No, I don't.
Calvin Bassey. Who? Never heard of him.
Never to be seen again.
Say it again.
I said never to be seen again.
Yeah, precisely. Talking of teams that are never to be seen again, I think Sheffield United will be one of those this season when they get relegated. They're up against Brighton, a team that beat Ajax 2-0, but then again, Ajax are having one of the worst seasons in their history. Is that right?
Yeah, Ajax got a lot of problems at the moment. It's sad actually because I've always sounds like I've got a soft spot for every team in Europe, doesn't it? But I actually I did a stadium tour of the Amsterdam Arena. Really nice stadium, and yeah, sorry, I'm going off on a complete tangent, but I do have a soft spot for Ajax. But yeah, Brighton did a double over them, and I think they'll just carry that form into this game, really.
Yeah, they're an odd one, Brighton. Do you think that Europe's actually now catching up with their small squad? Obviously, Stupinan came on and then he went off injured again. You couldn't make it up, could you? He comes back after training really well after so many weeks training with the squad and stuff. Eventually, their manager says, "Right, we're going to give you a go. We're going to give you a few minutes in the Ajax game," and he goes off injured.
Yeah, I mean, did he really need to come on in that game? That would be my question.
A bit like Saka, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. In that game against West Ham, but I think regardless of all that, this particular game, Brighton are gonna do the business against Sheffield United. Sheffield United got a great win against Wolves with that late penalty and Fabio Silva in tears and all of this, but I'm gonna go Brighton 2-0. I mean, Fati's a player that I like. He seems to be doing well in the Europa League. Obviously, all this hype come on loan from Barcelona, Spanish international, and all that. But yeah, I think it is difficult for Brighton managing this Europa League and then Premier League with the size of their squad. But in this particular game, I don't think it'll be a problem at all.
So between the very first game on the 12th of August, where they beat Luton 4-1, down to the 30th of September, where they lost to Aston Villa 6-1. Since then, Europa League, they played Marseille. It's been a draw, 2-2. They then draw against against Liverpool, 2-2. They then lose to Man City, 2-1. And it could have ended 2-1 to Brighton. According to Jason, the way it was going, it sounded that match which he covered. They then beat Ajax 2-0. They then draw with Fulham 1-1. They draw with Everton 1-1. And then they beat Ajax 2-0. Very, very peculiar patterns of results there. Up against the Sheffield United team who are just absolutely useless. I'd like to think, though, Dan, that Brighton are going to get through this maybe 1-0, 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, I got Matomo. Obviously, thank God for Matomo getting 6 points in that awful game week last week. I just want to forget about that game week forever. So I'm looking at it now, and I don't know. Could he be a differential captain pick? But yeah, that would be Maverick. But yeah, I think once again Sheffield United, they lost 2 of their best players before the start of the season, and they've had injury problems. It's just been a nightmare for them. I mean, it was a great win for them last weekend against one of their sort of relegation rivals, but they won't be getting points in this match. So yeah, 2-0 Brighton.
We haven't even discussed captaincy, but certainly captaincy, Dan, this week is hinging on, well, three players. It's either an Arsenal player in Saka and or whoever for Arsenal. 2, it's Salah versus Brentford, which is the match we're covering next. Or 3, it's Haaland away at Chelsea. Who's your captaincy going to be on? Dan, do you know as of now?
Oh, I know, yeah.
Go on.
Thanks.
Go on, let us know.
I've got it on Salah at the moment, yeah.
Is that going to be your man this week?
It might be, you know.
Mr. Reed, let me know your captain and I'll do the complete bloody opposite.
What about your captain, Steve? You're asking all your rivals.
It's on Salah at the moment. At the moment, but I'm waiting on what Mr. Reed may do.
Mr. Reed is the expert, but
yeah, expert in failing miserably at this game. Whoever he captains always fails, especially it's like a differential. Or if it's like a toss-up between, say, like it is now this week, Salah and Haaland. If he goes with Salah, he'll do nothing, but Haaland will do really well, or vice versa. So, Mr. Reed, if you're listening, and there's a high chance he could be. I mean, his team's horrific. Van der Ven, Burn, Maddison, all red flagged. Awful. That's shocking. Retire now, Mr. Reed. But yeah, Brentford versus Liverpool. God, Brentford are when they seem to be involved in a lot of games which involve the number 3. So they beat Fulham 3-0. They lost to Everton 3-1. They beat Burnley 3-0. They beat West Ham 3-2. Do you expect Liverpool to do something against them with a 3 in front of it?
Yeah, I mean, Brentford, it's a strange team, isn't it, really? Like a mixture of results, like you said, but I just think Liverpool at home, they obviously lost against Toulouse last night, which was a bit unexpected. So that was quite a sort of memorable night for the Toulouse fans. But yeah, I think Liverpool, I'm going to say 2-0 Liverpool in this game.
I've gone 3-1. I just think that Brentford will hit Liverpool at some point on the counter-attack and get some sloppy goal, but I do think that Liverpool will, despite even though their last 3 fixtures they've won. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at Brentford here. Sorry, I thought I was looking at Liverpool. Liverpool's form has been really, really good this season. They had that loss against Toulouse. Do you know much about that game at all, Dan?
Well, there was a bit of VAR controversy towards the end because I think Liverpool thought they'd equalised, and then they said that there was a handball from McAllister, and Jurgen Klopp it's probably worth watching the video for a bit of entertainment. He was really riled at the end when they were doing the press conference because you could hear the Toulouse players celebrating, and he was just questioning the wisdom of the decision to have the press conference in that particular location in the building. So, but yeah, I mean, Liverpool mixed the team up a little bit, but it still was a shock defeat for them. But I mean, Brentford, those last 3 games, they beat West Ham, they beat Chelsea away, and they beat your boys 3-0 at home, and they had a narrow defeat to Man United. So, and they drew away to Forest, like you say, not an easy place to go. Obviously, that loss to West Ham, to Everton, that's going to sting. But apart from that, the results have been, well, apart from the Fulham result, but they drew at home with Tottenham. But so I don't think it'll be an easy game for Liverpool. But like I said, Liverpool this season in the league, particularly, have been on really good form. So yeah, I think Liverpool will do the business here.
Of the 17 matches, Dan, that Liverpool have played in all competitions, how many games have ended with a team scoring 3 goals? Whether it's a Liverpool win or loss, how many times has a team scored 3 goals? Of the 17 games? 6. Add 2. It's actually been 8 games where Liverpool have won, or someone's beaten Liverpool 3 goals, but usually it's in Liverpool's favour. So here we go. We've got Liverpool 3, Bournemouth 1, Liverpool 3, Aston Villa 0, Wolves 1, Liverpool 3, LASK 1, Liverpool 3, Liverpool 3, West Ham 1, Liverpool 3, Leicester 1, Liverpool 3, Nottingham Forest 0, Toulouse 3, Liverpool 2. And at home, this season they've only lost twice, which was against Tottenham away, where they, God, actually now think about it, makes me angry, that Matip own goal. There's been a lot of red cards as well involving Liverpool games. They've had 5 red cards across this season, including one for Everton. And Liverpool this season are scoring goals, Dan, especially at home. 3-1, 3-0, 3-1, 3-1, 2-0, 2-0, 5-1, 3-0. So I think Salah's looking like the best captaincy option this week. So yeah, it's looking quite good against Brentford, and the history, I know this much, in the 3 games they've played, 4 games they've played, 3 of them a team has actually scored 3 times. So we had Brentford 3, Liverpool 3, Liverpool 3, Brentford 0, Brentford 3, Liverpool 1. The anomaly was the last game, one of the last games of the season where Liverpool won 1-0. Question for you, Dan: when Liverpool won 1-0 against Brentford on the 6th of May at 5:30 in the evening, who scored the goal and who got the assist?
Oh man, this question's getting tougher. I'm going to say...
And it's obvious players. It's not like obscure players like Elliott. It's obvious players.
All right, I'm going to say Salah got the winner and Jota got the assist. Just off the top of my head, just guessing.
Not bad. Salah got the goal, and it was Van Dijk who got the assist in a 1-0 win against Brentford that time. So moving on to the next game, which is as follows. Once I click on the right icon here, it is West Ham versus... We don't care about this game, Dan. I just went with West Ham to nick it 2-1, maybe even 2-0.
Sorry, what? You don't care about West Ham?
I don't give a shit about West Ham. I don't care anything about them whatsoever. They're always involved in games which are high scoring, as I'm about to prove to myself or disprove myself either way right now, which I am correct. They're in high scoring games: 4-1, 2-1, 1-0, 3-1, 3-2, 1-0. So yeah, Dan, I'm not really caring for this game whatsoever. I'm expecting it to be a really boring match. You?
Be a great game. I think West Ham will go at it. I think You've got a man Bowen on form this season that some people will have in their team.
Jason's thinking of getting rid of him, Dan.
Well, he's mad, isn't he? But then Forest coming off the back of an amazing result against Aston Villa, which I said that you saw, but I didn't see coming. But then West Ham lost to Everton. They lost to Brentford. It's a tough one to call, this game. I know I've predicted a few wins for the last games. You know what? Sod it. I'm going to go for a draw in this game. I'm going to go 1-1.
Before we get on to the last game, Dan, what should people do that are watching this stream right now?
Well, if they find the stream of value, they should hit the like button, and then they should also subscribe and put some respect on the Elite FPL name, because tomorrow is going to be the 5th anniversary. 5 years of award-winning FPL content. 5 years of Steve-O giving you the history. Smash the like button and subscribe now.
Absolutely, and we move on to that final game. Are you going to be watching this game, Dan? Chelsea versus Man City?
Oh, yes.
Good answer. I was hoping you were going to expand on that. Where will you be watching it?
I'll probably, well, not probably, I'll be watching at the pub. I'll probably be having a couple of diet waters and enjoying the game, hopefully.
Yeah, I think, I'll be honest with you, Dan, I'm not really looking forward to this match. I think it's going to be really, really boring. I just, off the top of my head...
It's going to be boring.
No, I mean, serious. Chelsea do absolutely nothing for me whatsoever. At all. Man City, I cannot stand watching. I find them the most boringest team on the planet. The history goes like this, Dan. Man City won. This is in chronological order, starting from this year back to 2021. Here we go. In fact, Dan, I'm going to read the first result, and you're going to read the next. What the next will be. So, Man City won. Chelsea
0.
Correct. Man City 4. Chelsea
0.
Correct. Chelsea 0. Man City
5.
1. Man City 2. Chelsea
6.
0. Man City 1. Chelsea
0.
And then finally Chelsea 0. Man City
1.
Yeah. 4 1-0s across the last 6 fixtures. And Man City have won every single game to 0. I am expecting this to be Chelsea to try and contain Man City as much as they can, and they won't. Chelsea have got no attackers. There's nothing about them that impresses me whatsoever other than Palmer and occasionally Sterling. Obviously, yeah, we got Sterling and Palmer versus their old clubs here.
Yes.
Aren't you're a fan of that old thing of players scoring against their former clubs?
Well, it just happens all the time.
50p then?
Always happens. It's interesting. I mean, Chelsea have just demolished the league leaders, Steve. I thought you'd be more impressed with them with Jackson with that incredible hat-trick he scored. But
yeah.
No, I know what you mean. It was just like the school bully beating up the wimp. I mean, yeah, I think Man City will just edge this game out, really. Chelsea still very much a work in progress. But having said that, you know, they drew at home with us. They drew at home with Liverpool. So those were 2 tough games, and they actually took the lead 2-0 against us. It would be easy for Man City, but I think, like you said, the history plays into it, and Man City have been back on form of recent, the last few games, starting to get the goals back in again. I mean, I've got the double up of Alvarez and Haaland, and yeah, I'm going to go. I'm going to make it a bit more interesting. I'm going to go 2-1 Man City. Just hope for a bit more of an interesting game than you're predicting.
So Chelsea's last few fixtures have involved a lot of 2s. So prior to that, prior to their game against Fulham where they prior to their game against Fulham where they won 2-0, the games before that were 1-0, 1-0, 0-0, 1-0. They beat AFC Wimbledon 2-1. They beat Luton 3-0. They lost to West Ham 3-1. And then their opening game of the season, like you mentioned, was 1-1. But since then, since their win of Fulham against 2-0, they've got 4-1, 2-2, 2-0, 2-0, 4-1. So despite... By the way, some of those results weren't in Chelsea's favour, i.e. the Brentford game was 2-0. In fact, the Brentford game was their only loss in their... Prior to that, their win against Brighton in the League Cup when they beat them 1-0. That was their only loss. So they were on a lot of form, and they should have, to be fair, they should have come away from that Brentford game with something. How on earth Brentford scored twice against them? When I was listening into the game, it sounded like Chelsea were all over. And the point being, though, is that Chelsea are in a bit of form. You're completely right. Man City, on the other hand, a team who we all know how they perform, we all know how they play. They've won their last 5, absolutely decimating teams. Okay, they just got past Brighton 2-1, but then they beat Young Boys 3-1, they beat Man United 3-0, they beat Bournemouth 6-1, they beat Young Boys 3-0. Again, they're another team with a lot of a lack of clean sheets, but a lot of goals involved. Their opening few fixtures, so in the Community Shield against you, they drew 1-1. In the game against us, they beat us 3-0 in the opening game of the season, and they drew with Sevilla 1-1. Then they beat Newcastle 1-0, and then it was Sheffield United 2-1, and then all of...
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, all of a sudden, after that 2-1 victory against Sheffield United, they seem to have... Something seems to have happened where their results are 5-1, 3-1, 3-1, 2-0, 1-0 lost to Newcastle, 2-1 lost to Wolves, but then 3-1, lose 1-0 to you, beat Brighton 2-1, and I've just mentioned those 3-1, 3-0, 6-1, 3-0. I tell you what, mate, Haaland captain against Chelsea could be the one. It really is a toss-up between... Say that again?
I said it sounds like you've been reading in the chat.
I haven't read anything in the chat, to be honest with you. I'm not even looking at it.
That's what somebody said in the chat, that Haaland captain against Chelsea could be the one. Honest to God. Yeah. So, all I was going to say, sorry, is a bit of trivia. Actually, I always get his name wrong. Cole Palmer, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
It's just a weird name. I always say Cole Palmer, but Cole Palmer actually got 2 goals in Man City this season in the game against Sevilla and the game against us in the Community Shield, and both really good goals as well. So he's a talented player. So he'll have a point to prove in this game. Sterling left out the England squad again, which is weird because he's actually been playing quite well this season. Most of the games I've seen him. Against his old team again, he'll have a point to prove. They've got Enzo and Caicedo in midfield. So it'd be an interesting game. I'm looking forward to it, but I think Man City they've picked up recently. The confidence is there, and I think they're just going to edge this by a goal. Really, at Stamford Bridge on Sunday afternoon.
I think I predicted 2-0 myself for Man City, and I always say this with FPL, that whatever happened the week before, whether it's a bad game week or a good game week, the opposite happens. And a load of people captained Salah, he did nothing, so he's probably going to do something this week. A lot of people captained Haaland last week, he did nothing. He did something against Young Boys, but he's probably going to do something against Chelsea. So yeah, it is going to be a bit of a toss-up, but I think most people are pretty much happy with the fact that they're going to go with Salah as their captaincy. And I think looking at these, I think it's going to be very close between the two, Dan, captaincy-wise, on who people are going to be picking. There we have it, Dan. That is pretty much the end of the stream. Another quick question, actually. Would you play, from my point of view, Nketiah at home to Burnley or Alvarez away at Chelsea? Tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, I just don't think Nketiah is going to start based on what we've heard. But I mean, if Nketiah was starting, I mean, I've got Alvarez and he's not really been returning for me recently. It's been quite frustrating. But just based on the information we've got on hand to us at the moment, I'd go with Alvarez because he's due a return.
Yeah. I'm going to do the transfer now, everybody. I'm actually going to do the Martinelli transfer now. I'm going to do it right this second. Nervous, Dan, that I'm bringing in a Martinelli? You're jealous?
I'm not jealous. I can get him in if I'm going to take a -4 tonight. It's fine.
What's the likelihood of you taking a hit in all seriousness?
Probably 25%.
Oh, is that it? It's not going to be that?
No, it's probably not going to happen, really. There's no point in taking a hit for this game, I don't think.
No, I mean, especially if you're happy with, make transfers, confirm -4, done. So that's that done. I've got Martinelli in for this game week, and I think potentially I may go with the double Newcastle defence. ahead of Shimikas. So it'd be Trippier, Lascelles, Cash instead of Shimikas, basically. So I just see them scoring Brentford, whereas Bournemouth, I think it's going to be a really, really difficult game. And honestly, I can see that being like I said, I've already got it as 2-1 to Bournemouth, but really 1-0, something like that.
Wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I think it's not really much in it.
A quick question for people that may be interested in what happens when a team from the Premier League does visit Bournemouth. I know Bournemouth are in the Premier League, I get it, but what's it actually like being in the town when a Premier League team actually comes to Bournemouth, like Newcastle, for example, or Arsenal or Man United? Do you notice it?
Not really. I mean, it's all up near Boscombe Way, really, but you obviously will notice in an evening, like, you know, some of the fans from an opposition team. I remember I saw a Burnley fan, actually. I was out at where it was, this Caribbean bar place in town, and I just thought, what's this Burnley fan doing here? And I thought, oh yeah, wait a minute, they played earlier on, but I don't think it's massively noticeable. But yeah, obviously in and around near, you know, sort of the Boscombe area and whatnot, and Bournemouth where the stadium is at, you'll notice a presence, and it's just great for Bournemouth to be in the Premier League. Look, because it's, you know, we're a town at the end of the day, and normally being in the lower leagues and whatnot, so it's just good for the profile of the town when we're up at, you know, when we've got, you know, Man City or Arsenal or Liverpool coming to the Vitality. It's a really good thing, and I hope they can stay in the Premier League for another year. But it's going to be a tough one this season.
Well, there is my team up on screen. It's Areola in goal, Trippier, Lascelles, Cash, Son, Salah, Louise, Martinelli, Matoma, Alvarez, and Haaland, and it will be probably Salah being my captain on that. Right then, everybody, I think that's concludes the show. I think it comes to a natural ending pretty well. As I stated, join myself, Dan and Jason tomorrow at 8 o'clock for reaction to what happened, or what is going to happen in those particular 3 p.m. kickoffs, and obviously the 5:30, basically Saturday's games, for crying out loud. Obviously it's going to be a bit of fun as well, talking about the 5 years of history, and of course make sure that you're commenting along, giving us your favourite moments and whatnot. I am going to put out a tweet to ask the fans on Twitter if they have any favourite moments, and I'll read them out up on stream as well. Dan, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Just thanks to everyone that's tuned in. Thanks for having me on again. Really enjoyed it. Really looking forward to this game week, and really looking forward to getting back ahead of you where I belong. Yeah. Cheers everybody, and make sure as ever you're subscribing and liking the stream, and see you later everybody. Cheers, Dan. Cheers.